Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wizard. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, okay. Donald Mowat. How many hours do you figure you put in for the makeup of Dune?
Oh, I never thought of that. It's a great question.
Thank you.
Well, every day, I don't know. I mean, cumulatively a lot because of the prep and the design process, which we don't really sort of know quite the same way, but day to day on the set, just getting everybody ready. Not a long time, like 2 hour pre-calls, hour and a half to get all our main cast ready, except for, I'd say, Dave Bautista, David Desmalchin, and the Baron, who had significantly bigger makeup times. The Baron we had at 5.5 hours.
Oof.
With 5 people. Yeah, but you know what? Everyone loved it. And I had 5 people, a great group of people on him that know him as well. So it kind of condensed it. And we found ways to make it much more comfortable for Stellan and for the others. And they're just so into getting the makeup done. It's not like you're going to the dentist, that type of thing.
Well, that's a relief. So just how important was this movie for Denis Villeneuve personally?
Well, I think it's a dream of his. It's been a child. We all have things from our childhood, I guess, we hope to do or aspire to do. And for Denis, I know that Dune, having worked with him on a few other films, it's something he's wanted to do and he loved as a kid and as a very young man. I didn't know Dune. He sort of got me to love it. I didn't know it as a kid, I mean, I was kind of more into Rocky Horror Picture Show. I don't know. But I'm sorry I missed it actually as a young person because we were reading Interview with the Vampire, kind of grade 8 and grade 9. So Denis really inspired me to kind of love this, and it's a fascinating for what I do. It's a fascinating visual project as well.
Oh, definitely. So I'm wondering if this production had any influence from the ideas that Alejandro Jodorowsky had for his vision of Dune.
It's really interesting because I kind of I'll tell you the honest truth here. I only watched that documentary after we made Dune.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So here's my thing. When I was really young, I remember in school in Quebec somewhere in a kind of art class, people talking about, recreating other people's work and how it was a good thing to do, to try something different. And I don't disagree with that, but I don't want the influence so much. And on Blade Runner, when we were prepping, I was on another job in Boston and Denis and I would email and talk on the phone. I started to watch the Blade Runner again, which is one of my favorite films. And I stopped because it was messing with my head a little bit. Kind of come up with ideas that no, we're not doing Daryl Hannah again with one of our characters with Mackenzie Davis. So I think for what I do, I almost have to kind of leave all that and focus on what I'm bringing to Denis or what Denis would like me to try without comparing it too much to the other material.
That makes a lot of sense. But did you enjoy the documentary?
I did. You know what? All of it. And then I went back to watch, I had a screener from the Emmys for the TV version of Dune with Susan Sarandon, like maybe in the 80s, late 80s. And I found it and I had it in my apartment in LA. And I did watch that after we had finished the project. And I'm really glad I did because it really can take you out of what you're thinking about. And I think that it honors, Herbert, and it's certainly what Denis is doing and what we were doing, which was a new world. We're creating a new world of Dune. And I'd like to stand on my own feet to do that and come up with some new things.
I understand completely. And that puts that to rest. Now I know. So what's your favorite movie you did makeup on?
Well, it's so hard to say because everything is different, different times in your life, different actors. I have a few very personal ones that I love that maybe people didn't always see or love as much as I did. I was, going way back, The Fighter and 8 Mile, certainly. I have a very special place for those. A movie with Jake Gyllenhaal called Stronger, which a lot of people didn't see. I really loved. I love being part of that project from beginning to end and all the makeups we created and his performance. every job I've done with Denis has been the best job I've ever been on. So I don't take it lightly when I say that Sicario and Prisoners, I've rarely in 30 years had those experiences. So those would be my top, and Blade Runner. But Dune is an all-time. Look, it's something many people never have in 30 or 40 years of working, to get to do a film or participate and be creative on a film. And so for that, I'm very, very, very lucky to have had that. And had 4 or 5 jobs now that I think are kind of the best.
Well, that's a nice problem to have.
It's a high-class problem, absolutely. And it doesn't come along very often, but I think we also support, you get to know each other, and Prisoners. I think Prisoners and Dune sort of are, it's kind of full circle, because we had big casts and a lot of different makeup elements. And I think they're the most similar for me in terms of how hard, the challenges involved with a huge all-star cast. They're the most similar in terms of how I had to structure the department.
One movie that you worked on that I'm a huge fan of is Nightcrawler. So could you describe the aesthetic of that film for my audience?
Well, I'm really glad you say that, because it's also one of my favorites. And the aesthetic for that was, well, to be honest, I think people were a little bit worried, because Jake and I had a sense of what Lou would look like, and the sort of emaciated and really shadowing and contouring his face, and a sort of yellow, kind of oily complexion. And we worked that out together, and we had a great time. I don't think other people felt that right away. I think the initial response on set on day one from our producers was actually, but like, Jake Gyllenhaal looks kind of bad. I think there's a thing about a leading man, especially one like Jake, who's a very good actor, but he's also quite a handsome guy. I think when people see him not looking his best, people immediately get nervous that we're going into a character makeup thing. And there's a lot of pressure. So Nightcrawler, we worked so hard and with very little money. Dan Gilroy wrote probably the best script I've ever read in 20 years. And Jake's performance was, that word tour de force people use too often, but that was what Jake did with it. And I helped him, I think, with the makeup. Was kind of, it was a changing point, because we don't get to work on films like that very often, as you know, that are just small independent films shot in Los Angeles over 30 or 35 days. But Jake stuck to what he wanted to do and how he wanted to look, which was not about looking great or a movie star, but looking slightly creepy and oily.
It's such a good movie, and I love how LA is photographed. It's so great.
Bob Ellswood shot it beautifully. When I think back on it, I don't know, that was 7 or 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. Robert Ellswood is a great American DP. When I think back, that movie was made for $8 million, and it looked like a huge movie. So that was very impressive to me, that we had a really phenomenal crew working on it, who often don't get acknowledged for the work, but they made that film look a lot more expensive than it really was.
That's really interesting. Good to know the figure on that one. So what were some ideas that you came up with for Dune that Denis immediately said, yes, let's go for it?
I would say the Baron, because even though the Baron didn't play until the very end of the shooting schedule, which I can't remember now, but at the time it seemed like we had a long prep. But as we met the first or second time and kind of talked about each character, the Baron was one that I would need a lot of prep if they were going to let me go the route I wanted to go, which was to have a team working for me, designing this character, and then they would have to do a huge build in their workshop. So it came down to, 16 or 17 weeks prep, which sounds like a lot, but when you consider the source of a huge suit and 5 makeup artists, like 2 lead makeup artists, Lube Larsen and Eva von Bar, who work with me quite a lot, that they would have to sculpt and fabricate this fat suit. And it's not just a suit, it's an enormous suit. And the facial pieces and the bald cap and et cetera, et cetera. So I would say that one was where I had to start quickly. And the initial thing I kind of went to Denis with was sort of Marlon Brando, Island Dr. Moreau. More than a now, and he loved it. And we started, and that was the very first concept drawing that went back to Denis and the art department, and then back to me, and we started to play with it. And then we started on David Desmalchin, because he couldn't cut his hair. I guess he was doing Suicide Squad. So we had, then the world of people's schedules came up. And I felt myself kind of almost being a producer, if you will, having to handle like, well, David can't cut his hair, but he can do this. And Dave Bautista can't do that. So we suddenly were in the world of the Harkonnens and the Mentats. And that I had enough prep, to be fair. And Denis really lets me kind of figure it out. And then I present the ideas and the visuals to him. What did we do with very little prep? Rebecca, Timmy, our hero cast, Josh Brolin. So I'd say, yeah, those you get right into, because you have your principal cast in pre-production for makeup tests available to you, where you often don't get a lot of them amazing supporting artists that come in from all over the world between other jobs. So I'd say that's something people would never think. We actually probably have most of our stress from that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving pieces.
Sounds like it. God. How many Dune movies from Denis do you figure we can expect?
Well, I mean, let me know when you find out. Because I really hope there's more, but these days you can't plan too far ahead. I hope there's another one or two. I would love to be part of them. I feel like there's room for it. And certainly this was just the beginning. But, I also think we're in an industry and a changing world, and what we've been through, that I just take it, one day at a time. Let's see what happens. And I hope there is another, for me, on a selfish level, to reconnect with that cast, because it is a phenomenal cast.
Who do you think looks the coolest in the movie?
Ooh. Well, I have it's funny, you get different favorite things.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin, because we had such it was so nice to reconnect with him after Sicario. I love Timmy and Rebecca. I mean, because they're every day in the film. They work every day. So you spend the most time with them. What looks the coolest? Well, the Baron, I think what everyone came up with, and certainly Denis approving it to be a practical makeup, what the team in Sweden who built it under unbelievable stress. Will this work? Can we get him into the bathtub? Will it sink? What will happen? I mean, it was kind of an incredible feat. And I think that between the sculptors and the people applying it, and Stellan, who is he loves doing that. He loves being in a character makeup. So easy peasy, Dave Bautista. I think for me, maybe Dave Bautista and Stellan and David Desmalchin, I'd say, look the coolest, because they're the more obvious makeups. But working day to day with Timmy and Rebecca and Josh and Oscar Isaac, it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's such a crazy cast. I remember what it was. It would drip out who's coming in. It's like, he's in it and he's in it. No way.
Yeah. Well, Zendaya, and then you think, God, there was Zendaya, because we shot with her. We didn't camera test her. That she came from LA. We were already shooting in the Middle East. So, and Javier Bardem, I mean, I can't really say anyone was my coolest look, because Javier, when I saw Bardem, who also is one of my favorite actors, so being able to create a look with him, and how patient and involved he is and collaborative. When I saw him in Venice recently, I just thought, I saw him face to face after seeing the film and having not seen him for 2 years. I thought, wow, you know what? He looked good. It was a great character. So that's always you can pat yourself on the back very occasionally when you think that worked out really well, without much of a test and very little prep.
Those blue eyes look very cool. How did you achieve that effect? The
eyes are all, I can't take any credit for that. That's okay. In the world of Paul Lambert and visual effects. And I think I knew that they would do that, and he showed it to me. So I had a sense of it in planning the makeups. I had to sort of think, certainly with Sharon and Javier Bardem and Zendaya, that I had to take that into account with whatever makeup and hair we gave them, that these eyes would be this very specific blue.
Okay. How would you describe Denis for, the vast majority of us who don't know him?
It's harder after you've worked with someone for a number of years because you get to know them in ways other people don't. And he's also my friend. And we've worked on 4 movies together. I've worked for him. I think he's a remarkably talented individual. I mean, I don't need to tell you that. People know that. He's also a really nice person. And I think there's something that goes with that, because often we work with people who are brilliant at what they do, but they're not always the nicest. And I don't think that's a terrible thing to say. People are focused, but Denis has been very kind to me and very loyal. And I think we're in a very fickle industry. He's very determined, and so am I. So I think that you put the similar like-minded people together. And what I love about Denis is, I would say, I don't even know if I've ever told him this, is that he just lets you get on with it. He lets you present what you think. He lets you have an opinion. He doesn't have to agree, and he's the boss, and I get that. But he has a tremendous amount of respect for how other people do things and what they think. And it becomes very collaborative. And that's something I think is kind of a priceless creative challenge. It's a creative endeavor. But it's very hard sometimes, sometimes you work with a new director, or they haven't had an experience with a makeup artist that was good, or that was a character makeup. So you're also having to show people new things and how you can try something. Denis has been very open, in that, and he challenges you, which on every job I've done, every film of his has had a makeup element, whether it was Sicario or Prisoners, with Paul Dano. There have been tremendous challenges on the makeup end. So I feel like he's got me on my, to be better. I feel like he's inspired me to be better at what I do and have a great team and kind of move forward to help him make a great movie.
Well, that's nice to know. Donald, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciated you giving me some time and the conversation. I thought it was very interesting. My final question is, you've been in the film industry for a while. People can check out your IMDb. Your resume is very impressive. How did you achieve longevity in the industry?
Well, I think that I've been very lucky, and there's a certain amount of luck, and what do they say, luck and opportunity, but you have to work very hard. It's not, I mean, people say it, but I really mean you have to take it. You have to take it. There's a lot of discipline, I think, to last, to be, you have to give certain things up. And there are like anything, any craft, I guess, or, something you're determined to work on. You have to give up certain things. There's no question. Being away from home, it's very difficult, 5 months, 6 months. And not everyone has that. And you have to kind of respect and accept we're all different. So I know some great makeup designers, makeup artists, hair, costume, who do amazing work, but they don't want to leave home. They want to work as close to 9 to 5 as possible. Nothing wrong with that. It's a choice. But then you might end up working on, something I wouldn't want to work on. But that's okay too. But I think to last 30 plus years, I never realized until I hit 30 years, it's kind of hard. And it's somebody just wrote a thing about how many hours we do. And basically by the time we top it, sort of 20 years, we've already done 40 years of work. So I think a lot of us are tired too much of the time, and we don't get enough sleep, but I think that's goes with the territory. And I feel very privileged that I've been able to work in the job I love for over 30 years. There's very, very few people who can say that.
Definitely true. And it was a real pleasure talking to you today. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.